went on a ghost tour.
Hey.
Did you go on that walking tour?
Uh-huh.
Well, hello again. Welcome into 101.7 FM and 710 KEEL. Welcome again into Strategies for Living. There you are making noise already.
Sorry.
I'm marriage and family therapist. Would you do something with her, Ruth? I'm marriage and family therapist David McMillan. Nothing can be
It's hopeless. It's hopeless.
Welcome to Monday. PLPC, Carla McCormick. And how you doing?
Hi, boys. I'm fine, Dave. How are you?
Well, I survived another weekend. Excited about this week. Really excited about this week here on Strategies. Welcome to October. Was it Thursday morning? I don't think I mentioned it Thursday, but was it Thursday morning that went outside to get the paper and
cool
it had the
weather.
little nip in the air? Yeah.
Wow, yeah.
Has fall arrived, Ruben, right?
I was yes. Good evening, everyone. Fall, I think, has finally arrived. It hasn't really cracked 90 in about a week and some days. I think
It's exciting that it.
I'm very excited about that.
So lots to be excited about, including our guest lineup for this week, because since this is the first week in October. You and I are going to talk. We're going to talk about values this evening. We'll talk about that in a second.
I have no values.
Tomorrow we'll talk about how to let go of emotional overeating. I think a lot of us, including me, do that. And then we're going to talk about Marsha on Wednesday.
Cool.
Because Kata is
in
celebrating.
the house.
Kata's in the house. We're celebrating 60 years. So the dinner's
That's
coming
crazy.
up. And we'll talk about Marsha, and a lot of other things that the Council on Alcoholism and Drug Abuse of Northwest Louisiana is involved in. And then Thursday, our friend Dr. Nick Getters back with us from Loving Solutions and LSU Health Science Center. We'll catch up with him, see what all's going on. So we've got a big week here.
I love it.
On Strategies. What do you value? And values bring distinction to our lives. You don't exactly find them, you choose them. And we're going to talk about that this evening. We're going to talk about 10 ways, 10 signs that you know what matters to you.
Do you choose your values, or are they given to you as a child?
Well, I think both. I mean, they're offered to you, and then you have a choice. We'll talk about that. That's a good question. Good question to get us started. Folks, welcome into Strategies for Living. We are presented by CATA, the Council on Alcoholism and Drug Abuse of Northwest Louisiana. They have been helping individuals and families for 60 years. We are also proudly sponsored by Jerry Anderson State Farm Insurance. By learning RX by Highland Place Rehab and Nursing Center, by Jacob's Well Inspirational Books and Gifts, and by Resilient House. Back in a moment to talk about some signs that you and I know what matters. Values on Strategies. And welcome back. Welcome back into Strategies for Living. Marriage and family therapist David McMillan, PLPC, Carla McCormick, and happened to be in Barnes & Noble earlier today, and the October issue of Psychology Today jumped out at me.
It just jumped into
It jumped into my hands, and the cover story is about core values and signs, 10 of them, that you know what matters. This is this article was written by Dr. Stephen Hayes, and Dr. Hayes is Nevada Foundation professor at the Department of Psychology at the University of Nevada, and wrote the feature article, as I mentioned, in this month's Psychology Today. So I thought we would, we're not going to read the article to you or replicate it, but, talk about some of the things, identify some of the things that Dr. Hayes presents as values. And he starts out from achievement and adventure to wisdom and wonder, not to mention kindness, innovation, and professionalism. Values are those things that you deem important in life, expressions of what you care about. They profoundly inform what you pursue day to day and year to year. In so doing, they fundamentally shape, therefore, the trajectory of just your whole life, right? Pretty important then. Values are an inexhaustible source of motivation. Inexhaustible because they are qualities intrinsic to being and doing. They are visible only through their enactments. They're adverbs, are adjectives, are verbs. I did something lovingly, because they are chosen qualities of actions. They can never be fully achieved, only embraced and shown. Nevertheless, they give life direction. They help us persist through difficulties. They nudge us. They invite us and draw us forward. They provide constant soft encouragement. Whatever values you subscribe to, it's important to know that valuing is a uniquely human game. Now, let me tell you one of the reasons that this resonated with me. I'm trying not to watch a lot of what's playing out right now in the political stage.
Why?
That's a complicated question. I work with a lot of survivors of sexual abuse. I've got a lot of people stirred up right now that I'm dealing with on a regular basis.
Right.
I want us to do a program on what's going on, but I don't want us to do it until after, everything's over. Because there's so much being talked about right now ad nauseum
Right.
through the media. And but I think that, I do think that there's some things that some people might be missing. And I don't know. I thought, okay, well, some of this is about values. So maybe there aren't any coincidences, right?
That's what we believe.
Maybe there's no coincidences. Maybe there's no coincidence that Psychology Today the October issue of Psychology Today jumped out at me, and maybe it's no coincidence that we're talking about values in
Right.
in the feature article of this month's Psychology Today. So I just, that's a caveat to
Okay.
why this is, and we maybe next week. I mean, our guest panel is, as I said, is planned for the rest of the week. I don't know when the confirmation hearings will conclude, when the vote will be, but there will be a resolution to this one way or another, and then we'll talk about it.
Well, I have strong feelings.
I know you do. I know you do, and I want us to express those. I want you to have and there's some other people that may join us that have some opinions, and I think it's important to express those. But today, let's talk about the foundation of all of this, and I think that's values, don't you?
I agree.
Yeah. So basically, our professor here, attempting to wrestle with values, Dr. Hayes, is presenting 10 ways to know that you're focused on what's important for you. So let's dive into some of these. You ready?
I'm ready. I love this kind of stuff,
So number one, he says, you feel a sense of enough rather than a need to measure whether you have more or less than others. We have values because we are verbal, symbolic creatures who can imagine futures that have never been and think creatively about how to take a current situation and advance it. Language is an excellent tool to note and describe behavior, which allows us to gain increasing control over it. Language is also double-edged. The symbolic processes that enable us to hold values bump up against the impulses to measure and compare ourselves in ways that leave us never satisfied, never happy, never at peace. What do you think?
So if I can find value in myself and what I'm doing rather than comparing myself, rather than how much money do I have in the bank?
How much education do you have? How big a house do you live in? How happy is your marriage?
How are my trips compared to my neighbor's trips? You know, I mean,
Yeah.
because I always tell that joke. I'm perfectly happy going to Toledo Bend until my neighbor tells me they're going to the Bahamas.
Yeah. So he says that we, you feel a sense of enough rather than a need to measure whether you have more or less than others. And I think you're hitting on it. It comes from it's something that comes from within, that shift to this is within me instead of something that I'm looking at outside of me.
But that's so hard. I mean, he says it like that. I mean, to me, that's one of the hardest things. You even hear people say, well, I'm just going to be a social worker. I know I'm going to make a lot of money, but I'm going to take care. I'm going to help people, and I know that that's going to be its own reward. Like they apologize for that.
Yeah.
Does that what
Yeah.
like somehow or other just being able to help people and be kind and to do something positive in this world is not enough. I've got to have that caveat. Well, I know I'm not going to make a lot of money, but
Yeah.
kind of deal.
Yeah.
That's sad to me.
What do you mean?
That they can't find just the joy and the fulfillment in just doing something I love.
Yeah, and do you know how rare that is?
Yeah, I
think,
do.
yeah.
Because I mean, I looked for it for a long time.
Yeah, yeah. And I love what I do, but I'm quick to say that I wasn't smart enough to figure this out. I mean, God put me in a position that there was no way I could say, I don't see this, I don't get it. I wasn't smart enough to get myself into graduate school to do this,
Right.
20 some odd years ago. But, I guess the good Lord takes care of fools, right?
Well, and the same thing with me. I mean, I went to school and then I went away and then I just kind of got led back here.
Yeah.
Without even really thinking about it. Is that grace? I think it is.
Yeah, I think it is too. Who are your heroes, Reuben? Who's your hero?
Oh, I've got several. Throughout the years, just running into people. I have friends my age who are heroes to me.
To you.
And everybody from my parents. They're definitely superheroes for putting up with me. And but yeah, I have several that I could rattle off all day on. Really.
Yeah. Can you name your heroes, Carla?
No, probably not.
See, because Dr. Hayes says that's another thing about knowing your values is that you can readily name your heroes.
I mean, I have people that I would like to emulate.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Yeah, that's an interesting question that I don't know the answer to that.
He says, as our heroes, we choose the people who stand for something that we admire, something that we would like to stand for ourselves. And as a result, one way of getting your values is to ask yourself, who are my heroes? Who are they? Once you identify the people who really mean something to you, who move you deeply in some way, then you can spend time examining and identifying exactly what that something is. What do they stand for? What do they stand for in your eyes, in the qualities of their actions? Who are your heroes? We're talking about your values today. And
you can be my hero, David. I'll be the wind beneath your wings.
Oh, you're going to make me turn red. Some signs you know what matters. Talking about values today on Strategies. Welcome back. Welcome back into Strategies for Living, 101.7 FM and 710 KEEL, PLPC. Carla McCormick, who is one of my heroes, and marriage and family therapist David McMillan. You are my hero. You know, when I approached you about doing the radio program, you told me later about the trepidation, but you immediately said yes. You immediately said, yeah, I'm in. Sign me up, you know. That's a sense of adventure. You know, you'd never done that before.
No, and I was scared to death.
I didn't even have to sell you on it, you know.
That is some. I like to try new things, I guess.
And maybe and welcome back, folks. We're talking about the cover article in this month's October Psychology Today that's written by a professor at the University of Nevada, Dr. Stephen Hayes. And he's talking about some ways that you know that you're focused on what's important to you and your values. And maybe what we're just talking about goes into number 3. You can single out the sweetest moments of your life. Now that's powerful, you know? How many sweet moments do we get in a lifetime?
I think you get a lot if you're looking for them.
Yeah, but do we? Yeah, I agree. But do we hold on to them? Do we remember them?
I'm trying to, you know, and I don't know if that's an aging thing because I'm getting older, you know, or if it's a self-awareness thing. But you know, I used to the sweet moments for a long time were always big things.
Yeah.
And now I'm realizing that the sweetness in the small things.
Yeah.
You know, the sweetness in just, you know, being with people that I love and laughter.
Yeah.
And giggles and sharing those
sharing
moments.
and cuddling and snuggling and, you know, just sharing a conversation.
And I find myself attracted to those people, the people who make me laugh, the people who make me, you know, lose any kind of self-consciousness that I have, you know, about anything.
And lose the sense of time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're sitting there at eating ice cream, and it's 3 hours later, and you go, "Whoa, I gotta go home."
All of a sudden, it's 1 o'clock in the morning. What the heck?
Right, you know? Right.
So, think of the most rewarding moments of your life. Pinpoint what makes them so. Sometimes values are domain specific. Sometimes more general. If, for example, you're looking at work values, think back to those moments in your career when you felt especially alive, especially vital, especially moved, especially connected to life, moments that were spiritual in some way, and then unpack that experience. There'll be something in that memory that connects you to the vital source of valuing. Number 4, he says, you can identify your greatest pain. We hurt where we care. Pain has large lessons to teach us. If you look inside the pain and see why it hurts, you have a precise and powerful indicator of what you value. Now, I think he's right on target there.
And I think if you cause the pain, that value's 10 times bigger.
Yeah.
Because then you that matters.
Yeah.
You know, when someone hurts you, that's ouch.
Yeah.
But when you know you hurt someone else, and you know that your actions were the cause of someone else's pain, and
it's
you
way beyond ouch, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean that's transformative.
Yeah.
I mean, and the ability to look at that and own it, and say, yeah, I did that.
Yeah.
And I'm not proud of that, but that's not who I am anymore.
Yeah.
That is where the healing takes place.
Yeah. The rock group Nazareth hit a home run, what was it, back in the 70s. Love Hurts. I still get goosebumps anytime I listen to that song. Yeah. Great song. And it's true. You know, it's unfortunate that a lot of our pain comes, you know, through, and I'm doing air quotes now, love, because a lot of what I think we identify maybe as love, maybe as not. It's hard to figure out. It's hard to wrestle with, you know.
Well, because pain is hard to wrestle with. You know, I don't know. I think pain that, someone else hurt me and they hurt my feelings and, blah, blah, blah. Okay. But I think it's like that when you've disappointed someone else, when you've disappointed yourself, that kind of pain. I think that's that deep soul searching, how do you forgive yourself? How do you move on kind of thing that, we have to deal with and we deal with clients with.
Yeah. Number 5, you don't know the content, but you can identify the theme of the next chapter of your life narrative. Wow. If you think about your life as a story, a narrative, a story you're writing, what would you put in the next chapter if you wanted that chapter to stand for something? Now, isn't that a powerful, powerful question? It can be helpful to think of values as an extension of your story, of your narrative, because they create the theme, the meaningful through lines of our stories, the elements of the story so far, the challenges you've overcome, the opportunities you've missed or reached out for, the poignancy of love and loss exemplify life as a journey. You don't know yet the details of the next chapter of your life story. You might get a phone call in the next 2 minutes that completely changes the content. What, is Oprah calling over there? Is the phone, is Oprah calling? Oh, yeah. No, I guess not. But you do know the themes, the underlying meaning, because they're the values that you're choosing to live by.
So when we're talking about core values, I mean, what would you say those core values are the top 10 core values that you're talking about? You're talking about honesty. Mm-hmm. You're talking about integrity. You're talking about responsibility. Mm-hmm. You're talking about what? Spirituality?
Well, I think spirituality, runs. I think not everybody's comfortable with the word spirituality, religion. Some people use those words interchangeably. I happen to think that they're two very different things, but that's my interpretation. But you know what, Carla? I think it's the willingness to wrestle with what we don't have an answer for, and continuing to wrestle. And I don't mean this in any critical way, just an observation. There are people out there who pretend that they somehow know beyond. They know, and they don't only know, but they speak for a higher power. And I don't mean to be critical about this, but man, there's a hell of a lot of judgment all around us, and we tend to put people in boxes, and that's probably for our comfort more than anything else. So, I think it's a willingness to wrestle. Early on in the Bible, there's a story of who is it wrestles with the angel, all night long, and is it Jacob?
Jacob, because he stole his brother's birthright, right?
And then the next morning he survives it. He wrestles with the angel of death all night, and then he gets a name for that. He gets rewarded with the name Israel. Right. So there's a meaning to that.
Well, names back in the Old Testament meant something.
Yeah.
Didn't Jacob mean like traitor or betrayer or cheater or something?
And Israel, of course, are the chosen.
Yeah.
And this is provocative to think about, but is Israel the chosen people or are they the choosing people?
Oh, wow. You're going to give me a headache.
And but that's exactly what I'm talking about. Wrestling, why do we pretend we know something that we can't know,
because it helps us to feel like we have the answer.
Yeah. Yeah, that's about our ego. It's about our comfort. And again, I'm not going here now, but that's a lot of what I'm seeing play out in the in this discourse that we've seen in the last,
Well, because it's very divisive, because you have to pick a side, and if you're not on my side, then you're wrong. And
Yeah.
and I think, when we start taking sides, then we lose our objectivity and also our empathy.
Yeah.
How can if I'm right and you're wrong, then what does it matter what you think or feel?
And I can make you, and I think you're hitting on something. I can make you something less than human. I can make you an object. I can, if I black and white you,
Right.
good and bad you, right and wrong you, good and evil you, then I can remove your humanity at some level. I can remove your feelings at some level. You're in a box, and see, I know all about you, but do I?
Right.
That's worth wrestling with to me.
Yes.
Number 6, Dr. Hayes says, it's what you would do if nobody were looking.
That's what I call integrity.
What if nobody is watching? What if you did something and nobody knew that you were the one who did it? Think of how children play. They pretend that getting to that tree before you touch them is very important. There's as much life in those next moments of tag as they can possibly muster. They're running as hard as they can and laughing, not because it's important, but because they're pretending it is. They're caring about a moment by their own choice, not because someone is going to applaud, which allows them to fully participate in that moment in a playful way. Once you exit that playful space, the mind tells you this is important. So you wind up putting your choices through the filter of logic, which becomes the decision maker. And you get shoved aside by your mother's voice, a television commercial, or a wagging finger from somebody who played a role in your history. And see, this is, I think, what you were talking about as we were moving in the introductory this evening. The question you raised of, well, don't you get taught these, or do you choose them? And I think it's both. So instead, it's more powerful to come at your values as a choice between you and the person you sense yourself to be. It's not unlike what you knew to do as a kid. He says, Dr. Hayes says, in workshops that I conduct, I help participants find that playful space. I say things like, what if nobody's keeping score? What if nobody's watching? What if you were to do something and nobody would ever know that you were the one who did that? If somebody says, I just really want to help people, I respond, okay, imagine that you helped someone and it was a total secret. Nobody knew. We will actually imagine a situation in which it is possible to do something you care about and not be caught at. That exercise strips out the possibility of a self-aggrandizing motive. I'm so great. Look, I'm living my values, and look, everybody see it. That's pretty provocative, isn't it?
I love this because I think integrity that's probably one of my strongest core values. When I quit drinking, I tried to my needle of right and wrong was broken, so I had to find a way to live with integrity. And I'll finish this story when we come back, because it worked for me, and I think it's a good measure.
Let's start there right after the break, because we're talking today. We're talking about core values, some signs that you know what matters here on Strategies. Welcome back. Welcome back into Strategies for a Living. I'm marriage and family therapist David McMillan. I cannot believe that you. Why did you come back? Why did you come back with that particular song? Because it ties into the next. And I know, Carla, we got to finish up with you, but Ruben just did something here. Why'd you play that song?
I keep telling you, that's why they pay me the big bucks. I keep telling you that. And I can't give up all my secrets on the air.
Are you psychic or what are you? I mean, welcome back into Strategies for a Living. I've got goosebumps that he played that song. Welcome back into Strategies for a Living, 101.7 FM and 710 KEEL. PLPC, Carla McCormick, marriage and family therapist David McMillan. And the reason I've got goosebumps is because the seventh deal that we're talking about values tonight and signs that you know that your values, you're on track with values. And this next one, Ruben, is your decisions make you feel like getting up in the morning.
Yeah.
And here you play Wake Up Little Susie.
Yeah, he's that good.
It was written all over your face, David. I don't.
He's that good.
I'm blown away. I was just blown. We'll get back to this in a second, but we got to finish some business that you wanted to finish.
We were talking about integrity, and integrity is doing the right thing even when no one is watching, basically. Yeah. And so when you're trying to change and you're trying to change your life, and you have not lived with integrity, and you're trying to live with integrity, okay, well, don't tell lies. Well, you can do a lot of damage still telling the truth by lying by omission and all kinds of things. So my kind of gauge, my barometer was not to do anything that had to be a secret.
Yeah.
Because, I'd had so many secrets. So that's how I, started to change and started to live a life that, I was proud of, regardless of what other people thought and regardless of who was watching and who wasn't watching.
Yeah.
So, integrity. I think that is the number one core value, in my opinion.
Powerful stuff. Okay, so your decisions make you feel like getting up in the morning, approaching actions playfully as a game. He says, Dr. Hayes says, does not trivialize them. It vitalizes them. All because you get to choose. You get to choose what's meaningful. Kids do that very naturally. Innocence is where vitality lies. Adults have to reclaim that experience of innocence. And when you do that, you've plugged into the power of life itself. How do you know what your core values are? There's a major metric. Vitality. Life itself feels as if it's there to be lived. You get up in the morning and you go, not because you're whipping yourself, but because there's an appetite, yearning. You're taking yet another step towards something that you'll never quite reach. What matters is going in that direction.
So what do you tell the people who wake up and they hate their job, but they've got to do that job and they don't have another job and they've got to pay the bills?
Then you find what you are passionate about, and you reframe that job as a means to fund your passion. I've got an artist that I worked with years ago, and he was quite good at the job that he did. Extraordinarily so, and well paid to do it. But he would quickly tell you it was simply a means to an end, because he loved his artistry. He loved his creativity.
So this is just where I am right now. It's not where I'm staying.
Yeah, doesn't have to be. Yeah, and we've talked about this multiple times in multiple ways over several programs, but. We tell ourselves, our ego would tell us, oh, well, you know what? It's too late.
You're too old.
You're too old. You're
going to start over when?
Yeah. What are you doing? You're going back to school now?
You're going to do what?
Are you crazy? Yeah, I am.
And I'm
out of my mind.
Your family members may tell you that too. I mean, people you love may tell you. What's the story? Like Jesus couldn't do miracles in his own hometown. He had to leave because everybody was like, "Oh, that's just Jesus."
That's just Jesus, and he's crazy.
Yeah, we played Little League with him.
He was the guy that brought that bird back to life, wasn't he, when we were kids? Number 8, you can, in only a few minutes, write about what matters. And you should. Wow. There's a significant body of research demonstrating that writing about values boosts people's ability to succeed. Asking teens to write about what they deeply care about in the realm of education has a profound effect on their school performance over the next several years. Writing for just 20 minutes, 2 or 3 times in middle school, may alter their trajectory for years. In a study published in Science in 2006, Jeffrey Cohen and colleagues at UCLA were able to narrow the black-white racial gap in achievement by nearly 40% as a result of 3 brief sessions of values writing. The drive for self-integrity, seeing oneself as good, virtuous, and efficacious, is a fundamental human motivation. So began the report. Wow. Wow.
Well, I think that what's this statistic that people who write down their goals are something like 70% more likely to achieve them? I mean, it's like crazy. Like if you had those odds, you'd go to the boat right now.
Absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely.
and
You wouldn't be able to keep me away.
Just the simple fact of writing them down.
Yeah. Number 9, you have a strong desire to communicate your interest to others. You want to share. You want to share what you value with other people, because that's simply the nature of the creature that we are. The need to share what we hold dear may even be why we have the capacity to communicate in symbolic ways in the first place. Dr. Hayes says, when I ask people what they deeply care about, as I regularly do, other people are always on top of the list. People strongly care about love, connection, and belonging. They care about contributing to the well-being of others, lifting up people who are suffering, and being there for people that they love. Other strongly held values spring more indirectly from deeply social concerns. If you care about the future of the planet, a part of that is caring about what our grandchildren will be seeing, whether there will still be elephants and other creatures as well as rivers for them to enjoy. Even values that appear to be more individualistic, such as the creation and appreciation of beauty, have a social motive. People want to share that beauty with others to help others appreciate it. In my experience, Dr. Hayes says 99% of all values are social in nature. The process that allows us to care is profoundly social. We're social animals. We're social beings.
Number 9 is why we have the greatest job in the world.
You're right. You're right.
I mean, what a great gift we are given to be able to, to be trusted with people's fears and secrets and thoughts, and to be able to, cheer them on as they succeed.
Amen, sister. We're talking about values, and we're talking about the signs that you know what matters. There's 10 of them. We've covered 9. We'll come back and sum up and give you number 10.
Well, bless my soul, what's wrong with me? I'm itching like a man on a fuzzy tree. My friends say I'm acting wild as a bug. I'm in love. I'm all shook up.
It's a marvelous night for a moon dance with the stars up above.
Welcome back. Welcome back into Strategies for Living. Marriage and family therapist David McMillan, PLPC, Carla McCormick here on 101.7 FM and 710 KEEL, talking about the signs that you know what matters. Values are what bring distinction to our lives. There's 10 of them, and so we're on number 10, which is you use your mind as a tool to humanize rather than objectify yourself. When we engage the capacity to choose and to embrace the values that inform our actions, we are humanizing ourselves, living in an intimate, committed, effective way, moving toward the kind of life that we want to produce. That process is not without difficulty because it brings us close to the razor's edge, where we get caught up in our own thinking and risk turning our values into a pros and cons list by which we objectify ourselves and others. That's how someone ends up being a workaholic and creating misery in his or her family in the name of, quote unquote, being a good provider. The mind is a problem-solving organ that allows us to deal with events in imagination before they're faced in reality. That amazing skill has, over the last 10,000 years, allowed us, a weak, slow, poorly defended species, to take over the planet.
I don't know about all that.
Well, it is, you know, that may be another program, but I mean, I think he's on target there. I mean, it's the incredible brain, the incredible mind, which probably does get into the spiritual realm, the soul realm. He says some of the real world difficulties a person faced centuries ago have been taken care of, or at least diminished. We're living longer, even in the poorest countries. Violence is down, despite how things appear on our screens. We've made human progress, but to keep the organ that produced such changes from turning on its owner, we need to stay focused on the kind of life we want to live, connected to the meaning and the purpose we choose, instead of creating barriers to that. Good stuff, isn't it?
This is really good stuff.
Makes you think. You're going to go home, and you're just really going to tussle of who your heroes really are.
Yeah, because that really bothered me that I couldn't just rattle them out.
Yeah, but see, you've been stretched. Now you'll think about it. And Ruben's going to be at the top of your list. You know that, don't you?
Well, you know that I love you guys, so of course you would be on my list.
Yeah.
So I'm still gonna go. I'm still gonna go back. My number one core principle is integrity, because I don't believe you can have any of the others without integrity.
He got on my list today. I don't know. I still don't know. But he's always been on my list. But I mean, I just still don't know how he did what he did.
Ruben?
It's top secret, man. Level 6.
It's
level 6 clearance.
A level 6 radio secret. So see, Carla, he's distinguished himself now.
Oh, yeah. He did that a long time ago.
I know. Guys, you've done it again. Thank you. Thank you for showing up every day like you guys do on Strategies for Living. Thank you, folks, for listening to Strategies. We're presented by CADA and by Jerry Anderson State Farm, by Learning RX, by Highland Place Rehab and Nursing Center, by Jacob's Well Inspirational Books and Gifts, and by Resilient House. If today were the last day of your life, you only had one more phone call that you could make, who would you call? And what would you say? Why are you waiting? Make the call for POPC Carla McCormick. And for Ruben Wright, I'm marriage and family therapist David McMillan. See you next time here on Strategies for Living.